star of this year's March Madness tournament has been sidelined by an arrest. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh.
Alabama men's basketball guard Aiden Holloway has been arrested on a felony drug charge just days before the start of the NCAA tournament. A Tuscaloosa County police spokesperson says the 21-year-old Holloway was arrested Monday after agents with the West Alabama Narcotics Task Force searched a residence near Alabama's campus and recovered more than a pound of marijuana, paraphernalia, and cash. The Crimson Tide's number 2 scorer was arrested on a first-degree charge of marijuana possession. The charge carries a penalty of up to 10 years in prison and a maximum fine of $15,000. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
This is AP News. On the White House Chief of Staff facing a cancer diagnosis.
President Trump's White House Chief of Staff has been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. The president announced Susie Wiles' diagnosis on social media, and minutes later in the East Room,
a minor difficulty which will be in good shape.
Wiles was sitting alongside.
She's going to take care of it immediately.
The 68-year-old Wiles is the first female White House Chief of Staff. She plans to stay on the job during treatment, saying in her own statement, nearly 1 in 8 American women will get the same diagnosis, and she joins the ranks of those who keep working and raising their families. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Cuba is dealing with an island-wide blackout. Officials say they're investigating what they call a complete disconnection of the country's electrical system. I'm Haya Panchwani, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, a blend of clouds and sunshine to start, then increasing clouds into the afternoon with highs in the mid-20s. For tonight, snow developing, less than an inch of nighttime snowfall will reach a low of 23. For Wednesday, up to a half inch of snow accumulation in the morning, a high of 42. And for Thursday, a slight chance for some light rain showers up to 54. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 16.
Chicago. On March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history, all while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairshakepac.com.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Tuesday morning, progressives and all the rest. It is Election Day here in the great state of Illinois. Welcome to the March 17th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and of course, almost sneezed on you guys. Sneezed and coughed. We'll call that a snoff or a keys. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Substack, and Spoutable. And I posted quite a bit yesterday, so check them out. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, the great Patty Vasquez driving you home. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and all of our other great shows, interviews. So what's happening over at Heartland Signal? Well, here's a couple things. Kansas, a bill in Kansas would allow for-profit companies to continue charging veterans for disability claims. Once again, Republicans sticking it to the people that they say they really care about. Not even close. Here's another one. Minnesota State Senator Steve Drakowski, a Republican, falsely called the state's housing crisis, quote, fake, even as state officials release a report this week saying that there is a real crisis. According to an official impact assessment report, 76,000 people are in need. So maybe Steve needs to look at some data rather than just some real data rather than just, once again, Republican talking points. And you guys may have heard my interview last week with Betsy Hodges, the former mayor of Minneapolis. And we're going to be talking with her again in the near future. But I asked her a question about the recoil, why people in the country recoil when the conversation around racism hits the table. And she said something that's really stayed with me, but we had this over at Heartland Signal that you guys can check out. And she said one of the things that she realizes and feels is that people would rather feel better about race than do better about race. And that sticks with me because that's a big part of, I think, how a lot of Americans deal with any issues of groups that might be struggling. And that's the reason I wanted to kind of read those two together. There's a lot of people, some on the left, but certainly the majority on the right, would rather, feel better or say that they've gotten involved with something that's philanthropic rather than actually do something. Or if they get involved with something philanthropic, for example, when we talked to Vu Lee last week, kind of the same conversation. They'd rather say that they were part of an organization that's donating money and contributing, and then they could wash their hands of it and then kind of step away and go back to their comfort and their privilege. And former Mayor Betsy Hodges speaks about that with regard to racism. People would rather feel better that, things aren't as bad racially than actually do something tangible. I think that's very true. And oftentimes, oftentimes that comes from the liberal sort of community, believe it or not, that they'd rather feel like they did something than actually doing something that's tangible. And sometimes those actions are really more around serving their ego and serving their feeling than it is about actually making changes for people that need them. And the same I could layer that over not just racism or sexism, but those would be at the top of the list for me. But I could layer that over a lot of other things like healthcare for Americans. I'd rather, feel good about, we need to have a better healthcare plan, but actually doing something about it. See, I don't blame in its entirety elected officials. I really don't. I mean, once they're in the role, then they have the responsibility to do the work that they were elected to do. And I also hold us responsible. You notice I didn't say anybody in particular or point the finger. I hold us responsible for not holding the elected officials more accountable on all levels. And I said this so many times, and I'll say it so many times in the future. They're not perfect. They're good, but they're not perfect. So I think that when we talk about the disparities that are out there in our society in terms of racism and discrimination and bias, sexism and discrimination and bias, any economic concern, anything that's going to benefit people who are in a situation where they're struggling more than others, on any of the topics, whether it be economics or affordability, or whether it be medical coverage, safety in the neighborhoods, our roads. Oftentimes people want to feel like they did something versus actually something that's got meaning and is you can plant your flag and say, we didn't just talk about it, we did something. We all have to do our best to do a better job in that space. I recognize in saying that, and I say this respectfully, that we are all super busy doing the thing that we do to stay viable in our lives. But I think there's a lot to be said that circle back to what former Mayor Betsy Hodges says about it's more than just feeling a certain thing or a certain way. It's actually the doing that's tangible, that's going to have an impact in people's lives. So I would suggest to all of us that if we want to do better in that space, that we should ask ourselves, what is it that's going to take? That's, like if we plant a seed, what's going to actually take, and how are we going to germinate? How's that going to then germinate, and we're going to nurture it into growing into something that's going to be sustainable for the community. So just, wanted to say that as we are on this election day, and we're putting a lot of energy into people who are running across the country, here in Illinois, and there's other places in the country that have primaries and special elections going on. Just wanted to put that out there, let everybody know. We want our work to have to be sustainable and to have impact and be lasting. And we want to encourage our elected officials to operate in that way as best possible. Today's show, we will have, we got a crazy busy show, but it's all good. In the 6:45 to 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Will be calling in, and we'll be chatting with her. In the 7 o'clock to 7:15 hour, roughly, we'll have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton on to chat with us. And in the 7:15 to 7:30 hour, we'll have Congressman Roger Krishnamoorthi trying to kind of last comments from the top three candidates, candidly in numbers, that are running for the U.S. Senate seat that Dick Durbin is not going to run again for. So that's going to be our 6:45 to 7:30 hour this morning. So you'll want to tune in to hear what they have to say. I'm going to ask each of them a couple of quick questions and keep it kind of short, but give them an opportunity to chat with us this morning. And then in the 7:30 hour, we will be talking with sisters-in-law, partner and attorney, Barbara McQuade. I got a ton of questions to ask her, but we're going to keep it as simple as we can. So looking forward to having the time to chat with our candidates this morning. And then in the 7:30 to 8 o'clock hour, we will be talking with Barbara McQuade. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about something that we found out yesterday that I've got an interesting sort of perspective on. It may seem a little bit harsh, but I'll bring it to you that way. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
If you're only good to your new friends, you're not going to have any old ones. Straight Talk gets it. That's why new and existing customers get free 5G phones on Verizon's 5G network. Pretty simple, really. You keep good people by being good people.
Find us at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Taxes and fees apply. Plan purchase required for free phone offers. Copyright 2026 Verizon.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States Senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Robin Kelly grew up behind the register in her dad's grocery store. So she knows what it means when the same groceries cost more each week. Under Donald Trump, corporations get tax breaks, loopholes, and a green light to price gouge. Families get higher grocery bills, higher childcare costs, high healthcare premiums. It's Trump's economy. Corporate profits first, people last. In Congress, Robin Kelly's been fighting back. Robin took on insurance companies to lower drug costs. She wrote the law extending Medicaid for new moms to a full year because cutting care after 60 days was just wrong. And now Robin Kelly is running for Senate with a people over profits agenda. Medicare for all, so healthcare isn't a ripoff. Cap on childcare costs so families can work. And crack down on corporate price gouging so you're not punished at every turn. People over profits. Robin Kelly for U.S. Senate.
I'm Robin Kelly, Democrat running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Robin Kelly for Senate.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. So, like I said, we've got our top three, just in terms of the numbers, candidates for Senate, Illinois Senate, with us this morning. Congresswoman Robin Kelly will be with us around 6:45 to 7. Lieutenant Governor Stratton will be with us between 7:15 in that rough window. And then Congressman Roger Krishnamoorthi will be with us between 7:15 and 7:30. So that's what's happening. And Barbara McQuade will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So, busy. But got a couple of Choose Views news items for you this March 17th. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day. Forgot to say that. So there's news. It's St. Patrick's Day. I wore green. Y'all can see it. Devin wore green. Mike wore green. I almost forgot. Sorry. Airline CEOs call on Congress to fund the TSA and end the shutdown. CEOs of 10 major U.S. airlines are calling on Congress to end a funding standoff that is causing lengthy security lines ahead of the spring travel season. Once again, travel is the political football. Executives from Delta, American, Southwest wrote in a letter urging Congress to reinstate the Department of Homeland Security funding. They also pressed for the passage of legislation ensuring TSA officers and air traffic controllers are paid during the shutdowns. TSA officers received zero paychecks. Just received zero paychecks. That's simply unacceptable. I agree. Oil executives warn the White House on risk of runaway prices. Executives from America's biggest oil companies have warned the Trump administration that energy shocks from the war in Iran will likely worsen, according to the Wall Street Journal reports. In a series of meetings with cabinet officials, the CEOs of ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips delivered a similar message. Until the Straits of Hormuz reopens, prices will remain unstable. Crude reached $105 a barrel yesterday. In other war-related news, Dubai International Airport has resumed a limited schedule after a drone attack struck a nearby fuel depot, and you could see the plumes of smoke. Not even plumes, just like dark clouds in the sky from this. Dollar Tree sees their sales moderating amid consumer squeeze. They projected yesterday 7% sales growth for the current fiscal year, just shy of Wall Street's estimates. The bargain chain notched a 10% sales jump last year and a stock surge of more than 60%. Its shares have fallen about 13% so far this year, though raising concerns about how long it can keep winning with the increasingly stressed consumers having to spend more money due to the Trump tariffs. Dollar Tree has been attracting higher income shoppers, as we reported earlier this year, and growing its transaction values. This week's important data includes the FOMC meeting. The Federal Reserve will announce its latest action on interest rates as oil prices surge thanks to the war in Iran. Market watchers are increasingly convinced that there will be no rate cuts at all this year. Just a few weeks ago, traders were predicting 2 quarter-point cuts, maybe even 3, here in 2026. Now, Goldman Sachs economists say that a higher inflation path will make it harder for the Fed to start cutting anytime soon. And as you guys know, some of the upcoming releases today, the National Association of Realtors will release its February data on pending home sales, and the National Association of Home Builders will release its confidence index for March. Tomorrow, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release its producer price index for February, and the Federal Open Market Committee is set to meet to consider the changes in interest rates. So there you guys go. A couple of quick Choose Views news items on this Tuesday, March 17th, 2026. Okay. This is how I was struck by the news of Susie Wiles being diagnosed with breast cancer. First and foremost, I want her to get healthy and to keep on living with us, like, you know, as long as possible. And so I'm hoping that that goes well for her. And Donald Trump announced it yesterday, and we want no one to suffer any of the ills of a medical condition like that. But the approach, this is what struck me, and this is the thing I have to say about this, if I'm being honest with you guys about how I view this. I want her to get healthy, as I would anybody, Democrat, Republican, and in the middle. But the thing that I think is really, that we have to look at is what it's going to take for her to get healthy is medical treatment and insurance to cover that. And so what I have oftentimes, I struggle with, or certainly I think about, is when there are people who are against the things that help us all, then having the need for the things that help us all. And in this case, we're talking about medical treatment and insurance. Susie Wiles' treatment will be covered through the fact that she's a federal employee. And she benefits from that as she should. But the contradiction is that she supports a person who's done everything in his power to cut the same types of services that she's going to benefit from everyday Americans. She stood by and I took the time to do some reading just so that people don't think I'm just being a jerk about this. But she stood by while Donald Trump and others in the administration, and she's a chief of staff, so she's got major say and sway. Doesn't mean he's going to do everything or listen to her any more than President Obama listened to Rahm Emanuel or others. I mean, go down the list. But in this particular case, stricken with the condition that none of us want anybody that we know and love to carry, even people we don't know. I don't want anybody to get cancer. I could detest them professionally, personally, or even politically. Don't want that to be anybody's plight. I mean that. But the ironic hypocrisy is that this is a woman who has made it her business to support a guy that has fought to take away the thing that is going to be the thing that will help save her life from millions of Americans. She stood by while the Republicans have made it their business to take away the subsidies that would help the millions of people in this country that may already have a medical condition that their insurance through Obamacare, the ACA, is taking care of or helping them to survive. So I have nothing against Susie Wiles when it comes to this from a purely medical standpoint and a humanity standpoint. I want her to get healthy and to live out her life and hang out with her family. I really genuinely do. But what I'm tired of is when Republicans have a need or are going to benefit from the things that they want to keep from the rest of from Americans. I got a problem with that. And I would say it to her face. I want you to get healthy, Susie Wiles, just like anybody else. But y'all got to stop being hypocrites when it comes to this kind of stuff. We have to do a better job of making sure, and on this election day, this is one of those moments that our elected officials and the people that surround them are down with the things that are best for most Americans. And as I've said, and I'm repeating myself intentionally, I want her to get healthy. But I also want Republicans and Democrats, but mostly Republicans, because they're the ones that got through the big ugly bill last summer, fought like hell in the fall to keep people from being able to access medical coverage, and in the event and in accessing it, making it more expensive. The hypocrisy has to end. And I don't know if some people are rubbed the wrong way by the way in which I'm saying this, but it's a perfect example. The person that's got the ear of the president, the chief of staff of the president of the United States, is going to benefit from the thing that same person has fought hard to take away from so many Americans. Take away what would be an equitable way for people to be cared for. And that, my friends, is just unacceptable. So, just like anybody else that works hard and fights every day for a better society for us all to live in, we want that for Susie Wiles. We want her health to be back on point. But doggone it, GOP, this is one of those moments when you got to stop and say one of our own. And it just goes to show that medical conditions, cancer, heart disease, whatever it might be, all of these conditions affect all of us. She's got the ear of the president. She's in that tight circle of influencers. And now that she is stricken with this, which is awful, what's going to probably save her is not just the coverage. But this also gets into the conversation, and I had this in my notes, guys. This also gets into the conversation around what they're doing with the CDC and research hospitals throughout the country and facilities that are designed to make sure that when we have a person, whoever they are, wherever they sit, with regard to any medical condition, that they're cared for. So I hope that nobody takes this the wrong way. This is not against Susie Wiles specifically. It's against a conversation or a perspective by many that we should take away these benefits. We should take away this research. We should take away education and all these things that ultimately are going to lead to her being in a better way from this condition. I've had members of my family who've been stricken with a variety of illnesses, cancer being one of them. So I would want nothing but the best for her in terms of her health. But again, Republicans, y'all got to stop fighting against having research be done, having smart people in the room when it comes to care. I wonder how RFK Jr., what's going to be his position on this, Devin, in terms of her being treated? Think he's going to say, well, we should probably do some weird surgery or procedure. I mean, so GOP, just stop and look at yourself for a moment when it comes to this. And the reason I'm passionate about this morning is because I can't say it enough. I want her to get healthy from this condition and be treated and all those things that I would want for anybody. But doggone it, GOP, stop being hypocrites about the thing that actually connects so many of us, and that's all of us being in the best health that we can be in and having the coverage to take care of it and having the research to help us understand things better. Stop being hypocrites about it. Let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free. at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
If you're only good to your new friends, you're not going to have any old ones. Straight Talk gets it. That's why new and existing customers get free 5G phones on Verizon's 5G network. Pretty simple, really. You keep good people by being good people.
Find us at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Taxes and fees apply. Plan purchase required for free phone offers. Copyright 2026 Verizon.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, a blend of clouds and sunshine to start, then increasing clouds into the afternoon with highs in the mid-20s. For tonight, snow developing, less than an inch of nighttime snowfall will reach a low of 23. For Wednesday, up to a half inch of snow accumulation in the morning, a high of 42. And for Thursday, a slight chance for some light rain showers up to 54. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 16.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. So I ended with a couple of comments about this situation with Susie Wiles, but more broadly about how the GOP has got to stop this hypocrisy when it comes to coverage and medical benefits and treatment and research and all the rest. It just has to end. And I'm not going to point any finger particularly at Democrats, but I think all politicians have to take a better position. But more specifically, it's the Republicans that have been the ones. We know this. It's been the Republicans during this term of Trump that have been the ones that have said they're going to block anything that's good for America when it comes to medical coverage, whether it be Medicare, Medicaid, the ACA, and the subsidies, and all the rest. So there you go. I'll leave that alone because I could go even deeper, but I'm not going to do that. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joe Esposito will be taking your calls, talking to Professor Lauren Liebarger, Ohio University religious studies specialist focusing on Islam and comparative religions. Lisa Hernandez, chair of the Democratic Party of Illinois and member of the Illinois House of Representatives, and Illinois State Representative Cam Buckner. Spencer Critchley, author of Patriots of Two Nations and host of the Dastardly Cleverness in the Service of Good podcast. That is Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and TuneIn. Tonight on Driving and Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined in studio by guest co-host Joel Ostro and their guest, March Halperin, Democratic analyst, and, of course, Mike Nellis, Democratic strategist and host of Endless Urgency. Driving and Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 Central here on WCPT AM 820, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow on Choose Views, I'll be taking your calls, talking about today's election, and speaking to our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, Jill Habig, president and founder of Public Rights Project. Thursday, Chris Matthews. Yes, Chris Matthews, formerly of MSNBC, now MS Now, will be with us. Looking forward to chatting with all of them tomorrow and Thursday. So tune in and make sure you tune in to Joan and Patty today. Okay. There's another thing that's happening. There's another thing that potentially will happen, and I'll probably be writing about this in my Substack, and as it relates to this war. And a lot of people, we really have to pay attention to this because it's a safety issue. So Donald Trump talked about how he's not going to, he ran on no more of these, so to speak, endless wars. And we are in one now. We're at war with Iran. And unfortunately, I think anybody that's plugged in will recognize that it's largely due to creating a distraction because there's no economic benefit like the Trump administration is lying to us about and the GOP at large for us being engaged in this war. None. Oil prices are up. Nobody can get there is no, they're not that bad or it's not that high. There's none of that. Oil prices are up, guys. They are up. And I talked about this in terms of other areas that this is going to impact us. And it already has. The cost of fuel doesn't just affect us driving our cars and our vehicles to work and taking care of family and all the rest, but it's going to impact travel. It already has with airlines. Airfares are already up. The airlines have some pretty smart people, and they probably anticipated that there would be, if there were a possible war started by Donald Trump, that there would be a brunt cost for them, and there's been no question that they were prepared for this, because prices went up pretty doggone quick with airline air tickets, plane tickets for airline fares. So we've already seen that increase, which impacts millions of people as we're leading into spring break travel. And gas to travel is going to be more expensive. Many times in the past, guys, when we saw an increase in airfare, people would say, you know what, we'll just drive. We'll do it. We'll drive on our vacation. It's an 8-hour drive there, but that'll be fun. That's going to be more expensive. Not going to be. It already is. So one of the things that I think we have in common is our desire to travel and see family and go and do things. If we take work off the table in terms of an expense when it comes to gas, all the things that are part of our transportation system will be more expensive. Because if you decide to take a train somewhere, you got to get to the train, and the train, you may have to rent a car when you get to your destination. Who knows? But all of it's more expensive because this, frankly, idiot in the White House and his administration and the entire GOP are acting in a very, very corrupt, irresponsible, childlike way. Dangerous, delinquent idiot is a phrase that I saw someone say and use. But I want to talk about what this means in terms of being at war with Iran as it relates to our troops and their deployment. I read and I did a little bit of research to kind of get a little bit of information about this, that there's now become this conversation that there will be some troops on the ground in Iran. And I'm already sort of, girding myself for the tragedies that families are going to suffer because of that. Many of those families are going to be people or families demographically that voted for Donald Trump. And their sons and daughters and husbands and wives and aunties and uncles are going to suffer from it if we have troops on the ground. Iran is prepared for that. See, our arrogance as Americans, oftentimes we run around thinking that everybody's just going to bend to our will without any pushback. That ain't going to happen this time because Iran is PO'd to the 10th power. So if we have troops on the ground, as armed and as strong as our military is, there will be members of our military that will be captured and held hostage. There will be some pretty awful things that will happen. Not meaning to be hyperbolic, but that's what we're going to be facing if troops are on the ground. The other thing that's going on with this is where those troops are potentially would come from. And based on my research and a few phone calls and a few emails, what probably will happen is that they will be redirected from Japan. And here's where and why that's an incredibly dumb move from Trump, from the Department of Defense. Because if we do that and we move troops from Japan to the Middle East, specifically to Iran, now what happens is we kind of leave the back door open, because then China is now in a position where their military can say to parts of Asia, we're coming. Y'all understand that? If we move troops from Japan to the Middle East, specifically boots on the ground in Iran, then that means that we leave our other allies in Asia vulnerable to what China might decide to do. Or, this is the other part of it, Russia deploying their troops into parts of Asia. That's what could happen. So, we're in a very, very precarious situation. We've got prices going up on one of the most viable resources that we all use in one way or another. And this president is about to make a decision to reposition troops to an area that they're going to be put at great risk, greater risk than they probably are right now, into an active war zone where a country has been invaded and the military in that country probably has the mindset that we don't give a damn. And we'll probably see some people lose their lives, be put into some incredibly torturous situations. And we left the back door open in Asia. So, what do? We have to do our best. We have to call all of our congressional leaders and to do everything that we can to help them put pressure on Trump to not deploy troops to Iran. We cannot do that. It is not going to end up well on two fronts, specifically in Iran and indirectly in Asia. So with all that's going on, and we are all busy, we all have a lot on our plate, this is a phone call that we all have to figure out how to make, and an email that we all have to figure out how to send to our congressional leaders to let them know you've got to send the message to the White House, Republican or Democrat, wherever you are, wherever team you support, that cannot happen. Got a lot more to say about it, but we're going to take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States Senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Election night is almost here. Join us for the WCPT Election Night Special on Tuesday, March 17th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. hosted by Joan Esposito, Richard Chu, and me, Patty Vasquez.
Election Day coverage will start with Joan Esposito live, local and progressive from 2 to 5, and Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez from 5 to 7.
WCPT will have reporters all over Chicagoland with updates from state and local candidates' election headquarters.
The WCPT Election Day coverage and the WCPT Election Night Special are sponsored by Fazio Insurance,
an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953.
For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioINS.com.
Remember to join WCPT Radio on Tuesday, March 17th to get the latest primary election news.
See you on the radio at 8:20 a.m. and WCPT820.com.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
With Richard Chew.
All right, guys. Thanks for being with us this morning. Welcome back to the show. I took a risk. I guess you could say it's a risk. Maybe it's not really a risk, but I just wanted to be honest about how I saw this Susie Wiles situation. And I appreciate some of the comments that you guys have sent. It's nothing against her specifically or with this condition, but it is against the hypocrisy of the Republican Party at large. The medical conditions ain't got a party. Whatever happens to us happens not because of, where we go politically, but, or I should say that medical conditions don't have any discretion as it relates to, where they land. But we'll have to keep an eye on this. As it relates to the war, problematic as hell. It just is, because we know that that this administration is, to use the word unhinged. We were just talking about that. But yeah, clearly unhinged, and the GOP. That's the thing, guys. This is once again the hypocrisy. Republicans in Congress could stop this. They could put the brakes on this, because the soldiers that are going to die have died, and others that will die or potentially will die. They're from all stretches of our political bandwidth. They're Republicans, they're Democrats, and they're independents, and some that are not even politically involved. So we just have to be focused on letting our congressional leaders know that they've got to stop this. They've got to put the brakes on Donald Trump. And there's a lot of reporting that's coming out that's saying that there are more and more Republicans that are starting to move at least to the middle on this. I'll believe it when I see them all stand up and say, you know what, we got to shut this dude down. But until then, we have to be making the phone calls. We have to be letting people know where we are and what we are willing to accept versus not accept. So sometimes certain issues just strike me a little bit differently. And when it comes to life and livelihood, I have a very short bit of tolerance there, and I don't want to see any of our people be put in unnecessary harm's way. But as I said to you guys at the beginning of the show, we have the blessing and the honor to have our three of the candidates that are running for U.S. Senate here in Illinois with us this morning. And we'll just get the party started right out of the gate. I think I'm hearing in the background, yeah, Mike's nodding his head, that with us this morning is Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Good morning, Congresswoman, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, and thanks so much.
Absolutely. You put a smile on my face by just being with us because I had gone down the path of being a little salty this morning about what's happening with this war and a few other things. But thank you for being with us this morning. It's been a long race. You've been in the fight, and I'm so happy that we were able to have you on this morning to get a few last words from you and some things that you might want to say to folks here on voting day today.
As you said, it's been a few months, but I've been fortunate to meet a lot of wonderful people across the state of Illinois. And, what I always say, if people want a workhorse, not a show horse, somebody transformative, not transactional, and someone unbossed and unbought, then I would be your senator. And I just want people to know, just because you have the most money doesn't mean you're the best candidate or you've done the most. And I know that I am so qualified for this job. I have been working towards it, with working on every level of government, all the things that I've done in Congress, no matter who was the president. And I just feel very confident in my qualifications.
Well, I think a lot of people have seen that in you, and much of the conversations that I've had and people that I've listened to over the last number of months have said a similar thing about you. Congresswoman, we have a superb bench of people, all of our candidates that have run, even those that haven't been sort of in the top three, like you and Lieutenant Governor Stratton and Congressman Krishnamoorthi, just based on the numbers. I think the conversation has to also be about how strong of a bench we have. I've been saying this for months. In all states, all over the country, we've been, as Democrats, panned as not having, good representatives. I disagree with that. And I think that what this last year of special elections and primaries and others all over the country has shown is our messaging, our ideas are right, and they're better than what's coming from the GOP. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, definitely. I think that, when some people say to me, what are the Democrats doing, what are your messages? And I said, are you looking at what's happening across this country? In November 2025, we did great at the polls. Most of the special elections, I think all but two, we won. So I said, something is happening. It's not all woe was me. I know what the president is doing, but even with him, like what just happened with Robert Kennedy, they're losing in court much more than they're winning. But we only hear about the more negative. But as James said, the AGs have won 80% of the, of what they've taken to court. So we're doing better than people think. It's just that he gobbles up the news so much. And, one thing after another, with ICE now, the Iran war is just always something with him. So it feels dark, you know what I mean? But no, we are out there fighting. We're going all over the country, speaking with people. I've done it in my capacity in leadership with Hakeem Jeffries. I've been to multiple states to, get people to rise up, make sure they vote, make sure they know what's going on.
What are you finding in this campaign, in this race, has been the most, I guess it's kind of a two-part question, the most eye-opening thing that you've seen or heard wherever you travel, whether it be in the state of Illinois or in other states?
Well, I think, people really, the affordability issue, and it's different things to different people. Like if you're younger, people are wondering if they are going to be able to punch their ticket to the middle class. It's not gas necessarily in groceries. They will now try gas, but will I ever be able to buy a house? Will I ever be able to afford children? Like that kind of thing. And then if you're more settled, it's the gas, the groceries, the everyday thing. But I find that sad that younger people don't think they may have the opportunity to do the things that I had the opportunity to do. Or even, my kids had the opportunity to do. And then when people talk about things like, I didn't think data centers would come up as much as it did. AI came up, a lot also, but people are worrying about jobs. Will they have a job after, being trained or going to college, and things like that. So, but around the country, definitely affordability and then healthcare.
So this has been an interesting race, and you've been fighting hard, and you've gone across the state and the country. So, Congresswoman, this goes well for you. Let's just play this out, and you end up on top. What does April to November look like as we get to the midterm? What does that look like for you as the person that gets to the top of this race?
April vacation. April vacation and a celebration of my birthday. But no, I'll, get back on the trail. I want to go to places that I maybe wasn't able to go to or only could go to once. I want to start there and then, build back to the Chicagoland area where I was around a lot. But I'm not going to take my, foot off the gas. And also I'm not going to take my foot off the gas as a congresswoman. I have 5 bills that I filed, even running for Senate. Well, one hopefully has been taken care of, the impeachment of Kristi Noem.
Yep.
But, I'm known for my gun violence prevention work. I have legislation around that, legislation around my work around maternal mortality and morbidity, and I have legislation around consumer protection when it comes to electric cars. So I'll still be pushing that, and serving the great people of the second, but making sure I get around the state and spreading the message and really talking about this race, even though we are in a blue state. But I have some very red areas, and we cannot take anything for granted. We need every Democrat we can get in the Senate. And if he keeps going, like he is, people talk about, I know the House is going to flip, but who knows, the Senate can flip too, because the things he's doing are just so incredibly insane. That's the only way I can put it.
Well, they are, and you've been a rudder in helping the House move in a positive direction and do some of the things that we know that we're capable of doing when we've got everybody lined up and kind of rowing in the same direction. But I will I'll kind of close with asking you sort of this last question. What's your wish list right now? What's on that wish list? What do you want to see happen in these next few hours of this election day?
Well, I want as many people as possible to come out to vote. There's people running on every level of government, and it's important that we vote, on every level. And, of course, I hope that people punch too for Robin Kelly. But I have there's other people that I hope win. But for me, it's a game of addition. So I haven't said much about that, But I just hope that people look at the quality of the candidate, what the candidate brings to the table, what the candidate has done, because you can't change if you don't have good people, in office, or you don't have people that are, in office for the right reason.
Absolutely. Congresswoman Kelly, we wish you all the best today, and thanks for being with me this morning. We know that you've been working really hard, and all of us are pulling for all of you guys to do well today. So thank you so much for taking time to be with us.
Thank you so much, and have a great day.
You too. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Chicago, on March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history. All while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairshakepack.com.
Staples has hot deals and low prices on everything for your business, like up to $125 off your print order. Ends April 18th. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
AP News, I'm Haya Panjwani. Israel says it's killed two of Iran's leading figures. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma has more.
The Israeli defense minister says that the Israeli military has killed top Iranian security official Ali Larijani in an overnight strike. Israel Katz made the announcement on Tuesday. The Israeli military also announced it had killed Gholam Reza Soleimani, the head of the Revolutionary Guard's Bajij militia, a key force used to suppress demonstrations in the Islamic Republic. The killings again strip away top Iran leaders after the February 28 strike that killed 86-year-old Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
AP's Lisa Dwyer reports that Cuba's energy situation is worsening.
Officials in Cuba are reporting an island-wide blackout in the country of some 11 million people as its energy and economic crisis deepens. Cuba says there's been a complete disconnection of the country's electrical system and says it is investigating. While Cuba blames a U.S. energy blockade for the crisis, Cuba's aging grid has drastically eroded in recent years, leading to daily outages and an increase in island-wide blackouts. President Donald Trump warned in January of tariffs on any country that would sell or provide oil to the island and has hinted at a friendly takeover of the island. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Hundreds of flights were canceled or delayed one day after powerful storms swept across the eastern half of the country and upended air travel in a cross-section of cities. More than 750 flights scheduled to fly into, out of, or within the U.S. have been called off as of early this morning. About 1,300 were delayed. More on apnews.com. This is AP News. AP's Ben Thomas reports a Utah woman who wrote a book on grief after her husband's death has been found guilty of murdering him.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Corey Richins, is guilty.
Initially staring toward the bench, Richins appeared to gasp slightly and look to the floor as Judge Richard Mrazek read details of that verdict.
The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity.
The jury accepting the prosecution's case that Richins poisoned her husband with fentanyl, slipping 5 times the lethal dose into a cocktail. They also found her guilty of fraudulently claiming insurance benefits. Corey self-published a children's book about grief after Eric Richins' death to help her sons and other children cope with the loss of a parent.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, a blend of clouds and sunshine to start, then increasing clouds into the afternoon with highs in the mid-20s. For tonight, snow developing, less than an inch of nighttime snowfall will reach a low of 23. For Wednesday, up to a half inch of snow accumulation in the morning, a high of 42. And for Thursday, a slight chance for some light rain showers up to 54. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 16.
The 17 federal bank fraud charges that could have landed Ford in prison for decades have been dropped.
That's the truth, but outside groups are still spending millions lying and attacking my dad. I've watched him serve our communities for 19 years, every day fighting for families, fighting for seniors, and improving our neighborhoods.
And I'm ready to keep fighting for the 7th Congressional District. I'm LaShawn K. Ford, and I approve this message.
That's my dad.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
From the headlines to the heart of the city, Richard Chew breaks it all down. You're back on Chew's Views.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Don't forget, we're on Facebook, and we're reading your comments, so please leave your thoughts as well as like and share. Find it at facebook.com/WCPT820. And if you're undecided on candidates running in today's primary, WCPT has been posting all of our candidate interviews at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That includes candidates from the hotly contested U.S. Senate campaign, the open congressional races in the 2nd, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 9th districts of Illinois, the four-way state comptroller contest, state House and Senate races, and much more. Find candidate interviews tab at the top of our website, heartlandsignal.com. Tonight, wow, election night coverage begins at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be here with Patty Vasquez and Joan Esposito, and we'll have special guests, live updates from our reporters, candidate call-ins, and the big speeches as they happen. Listen on WCPT820.com and tune in or watch the live stream on WCPT Facebook page and the Heartland Signal YouTube page. WCPT's Election Night Special is sponsored by Fazio Insurance, an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953. For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or FazioINS.com. There you go. All right. In a little bit, we'll hopefully be talking with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. But in the meantime, one of the things that happened, or maybe happened, it's not the right word, but has been a discussion point. And Barbara McQuade and I will probably talk about this. And once again, it's something that this White House and its administration is doing. I've been really, I think, pushing back or certainly highlighting my concern around this Paramount Warner Brothers deal and Warner Brothers Disney deal. And what my issue has been all along is this over-consolidation of communications and information. Why is that an issue? We need to have a broader base of conversation about politics as well as any of our, where we get our information from, where we get our entertainment from. And the consolidation of that means that we're going to end up having it be a more singular voice, which is not good for a country that one of the tenets of our Bill of Rights is freedom of speech. So when we have two guys, a son and father, and I'm not talking about Trump, but Ellison, who are controlling that much media, there's no way you can convince anybody in their right mind that the messaging on any of the platforms that they then own is going to be a broad-based way of communicating and programming. It's just not going to happen. They're in line. I mean, Larry Ellis has been labeled a lot of things, and I won't label him anything because I don't want to say something that I don't know. But he's been labeled a lot of things. And now that his son is running Paramount, we've already seen things that they've done. And who's now running CBS? Barry Weiss and some of the shenanigans that she's pulled. So if Paramount's going to end up being the owning entity of Warner Brothers Disney, the problem is far-reaching. And if you don't believe me in this, you guys may not be aware of this or know about it, but like I said, I'm going to mention it real briefly, but I know we're going to talk about it when we have Barbara McQuade on, at least I hope we will. The FCC chair, Brendan Carr, just basically, came out and said, hey, if you don't say things the way that we want you to say, or if you don't talk about things in the way we want you to talk about them, we might look at starting to, in terms of covering the Iran war, I should say, that, we're going to start looking at pulling FCC licenses. Do you think for a minute that Paramount's going to program in a way that's broad to the millions of people that would be watching their shows or the shows that are under their platform when they were given, keys of the candy store with the Trump administration? No. The FCC chair is now threatening companies to say, we will not, we want you to say what we want you to say, and if you criticize the war, the price you may pay is you lose your license. That, to me, is a huge problem. So we'll keep you posted, and you guys should do your planning as well around this, because they definitely are coming for our freedom of speech. There's no question about it. But today is Candidate Day, to the best that we can call it that. And we're doing our best to try to squeeze in the leading three candidates in our Illinois Senate race for U.S. Senate. And with us, I believe, right now, okay, good. We've got our own Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton with us this morning. Good morning, Madam Lieutenant Governor. How you doing?
I'm feeling great, Richard. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. And I just want to give you a huge shout out. You have been working your tail off these last few weeks and months with this campaign. And as I've said to everybody that I've talked to on all the different races that are taking place throughout the country, our Democratic team has a phenomenal bench. We've got so many great people that are running in offices around the country, and you most certainly are one of those leading candidates. So thank you for taking some time. What are some of your last words, Lieutenant Governor, that you'd like to say to folks now that we're here on voting day?
Well, of course, making sure that everyone gets out to vote today. I look at what's happening in our country, and even this week in Washington, we know that we have a president that wants to roll back our voting rights. He wants to suppress the vote, and there are too many people, including my own father, Henry, who marched from Selma to Montgomery, who fought for the right for us to have the right to make our voices heard at the ballot box. And today is a day to do that. I know many people voted early, but if you have not voted, remember that you can register today and vote at your polling. And I'm just really excited about the momentum, and I look forward to taking the voices of Illinoisans to Washington, D.C., and being the fighter that they deserve.
Without a doubt. And the voting suppression and misdirection and all that has been a big issue, not just here in Illinois, not so much here because we are a blue state and because of what you and Governor Pritzker have done to make sure that, our state officials, our state legislators, are doing the right things to make sure that voting is easy. I early voted, and it was a piece of cake. It took 15 minutes, and that's how it should be throughout the entire country. So hopefully that's
absolutely.
I mean, that's a serious thing. It should be that easy everywhere in the country. None of these shenanigans but we know that that's what's coming from many of the GOP states. So let me ask you this question. When you've been on the campaign trail and all over the state and seeing people, what's been the thing that has really kind of put some additional wind beneath your wings or some air in your sails, as folks would say, to kind of keep you motivated and moving forward on some of those challenging campaigning days?
Well, I mean, first of all, I always say that in a time that people have felt so many different emotions under this Trump administration. There's been a lot of fear. We certainly saw that with Operation Midway Blitz and the continued activity that we're seeing with ICE and the terror and the real ongoing trauma that we've seen in so many of our communities. We've seen people worried about how they're going to take care of their families and feeling like everything just continues to get harder. And we see people who have been scared of just, where we are right now as a country and wondering, are we going to be okay? And yet, despite all of that, Richard, every day I get into spaces, whether it's a room or a union hall or a polling place or wherever it is, and people keep showing up. People are not sitting on the sidelines. They are showing up. I've talked to people who are election judges. I've talked to people who are saying, of course, I'm bringing my children out to vote. I'm talking to people who have been side by side with me at protests as we stood up to make it very clear that we need to abolish ICE and stand up for our immigrant communities. So many things that have given me hope. Little girls who come up to me who are just inspired, who have never seen up close and personal someone who looks like them running for the United States Senate. All of that gives me so much hope. The people who say, Juliana, we're with you and we're going to keep fighting and we believe you're the fighter we need. All of that just makes me, just kind of reaffirms for me that I am on the right track, that I'm doing this for the right reasons, that I want to take their voices with me to Washington, D.C. And I can tell you, the day that I show up and the room is empty, then that tells me that that's a time for me to be worried. But as long as people keep showing up and standing up to be counted, then I know we're going to be okay.
Yeah, and I think that when you said that about little girls seeing someone that looks like them, and I think that little girls and little boys seeing someone that looks like them of color is a strong statement. And because I can tell you that little boys look up to strong women as much as little girls do. They may not say it out loud, but they certainly do. So it's great to see someone like you running and running in the way in which you have. So, Lieutenant Governor, this goes well, and you end up on top. What does April to November then look like for you? What's your life going to be like during that period of time?
Well, my life is going to look like exactly what it's looked like for the past 11 months, and that is going to every corner of our state, talking directly to voters, and more so than talking to voters, listening to voters. You know, this is a Democratic primary, and now, you know, I'm the only candidate in this race that has represented the whole state, so I'm no stranger to going into every part of Illinois and making sure that I'm listening to people and representing the interest of all Illinoisans. You know, when I talk about giving the people what they want, which is what my campaign has been singularly focused on, when we talk about access to health care, which is why I'm, you know, fighting for Medicare for all, the reason why that's important is because every Illinoisan deserves access to affordable health care, and I believe health care is a right. And I'm going to fight for that for every single Illinoisan, the same Illinoisans that I've represented over the last 7 years now as lieutenant governor. When people say they want higher wages so that they can take care of their families and put food on the table and maybe save for a better future, that is something that every Illinoisan can relate to. So I am going to show that I am the fighter that we need against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who said that he was going to lower the cost of groceries, said that he was going to lower inflation on day one, said he was going to be the president, the peace president. None of that has happened. He's doing the opposite, and in fact, he's making things worse for Illinois families, no matter who they are, even those that have voted for him. I'm going to be somebody that stands up for every Illinoisan, just like I've done for the last 7 years.
It's amazing. It's been an amazing 7 years. And I will say this, you have been a phenomenal lieutenant governor. The state knows it. I think that that's something that hopefully you are very proud of. So what's your wish list at this point? You know, it's been a rough campaign. You guys have been slugging it out, but that's how we do it. Steel sharpens steel, as the phrase goes, or iron sharpens iron, whatever the phrase is. But what's your wish list at this point in terms of this election and this campaign?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want to win. And I want to win not because this is about Juliana Stratton, but it's because of the moment that we are in and the real desire to bring the kind of leadership that people deserve. You know, I think that I've learned along the campaign trail that there's a tendency for people to think small. I think when you see a president like this, who I've said, Richard, over and over again, probably have said it to you, he's not a normal president. He's not a normal person. And he's a wannabe dictator, and he has an authoritarian agenda. And we need real checks and balances, and we're not seeing it from the Supreme Court. And too often we're not seeing the real push and courage from Congress. And so I want to be that check. I want to win so that I can fight against this wannabe dictator, stand up to him, go toe-to-toe, and bring a bold, courageous vision, and not just vision, but action. I mean, look at what we've been able to accomplish in Illinois. We've raised wages. We've passed an assault weapons ban. We've created thousands of jobs and made Illinois a real island for reproductive freedom in the Midwest because we didn't think small. Governor Pritzker and I knew that if we went big, we could deliver for people. And now I want to do the same thing in Washington, and I can only do that with your vote. To those of you listening, today is the day. Get out to vote if you haven't done so already, and remember to punch 3 for Juliana Stratton.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, thanks for being with us this morning. Thanks for your superb leadership as Lieutenant Governor in our great state of Illinois. We wish you well. Stay safe today. Stay energized, and we'll be talking to you soon, okay?
Have a great day. Take care.
All right, bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, there's 2. And hopefully we'll have, in a little bit, Congressman Krishnamoorthi with us as well. But, you know, the Lieutenant Governor said some powerful things, as did Congresswoman Kelly, and that is we have to be Democrats running for and winning offices on all levels, on a state level or on a federal level, have to be willing to stand up to this other side. There's GOP in states. There's Republicans that are in states that are just causing havoc. And you've heard some of the comments, some of the pieces that I've read from articles that our team at in our Heartland Signal digital platform. Many of the things that we cover there are state-related items. So the lieutenant governor is right on point, as is Congresswoman Kelly. We have to be willing to punch these ineffective politicians on the right in the proverbial political face and bring that sledgehammer to the conversation. We have to be able to do that. All right. Well, we'll keep the train moving forward. With us this morning also is our other congressperson, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, who's also running for the Senate seat that Dick Durbin is leaving. Good morning, Congressman, and welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning. How are you? I'm good.
You know, as Chicago goes, as the Midwest goes, we go from 60 degrees to 18 degrees in a matter of 48 hours. But here we are. So I'm glad to have you with us this morning. Thanks for taking some time out to converse with us a little bit. I know that our listeners want to hear from you, as well as we just had on Lieutenant Governor Stratton and Congresswoman Kelly. It's been a long race. You've been fighting like the other top two candidates have been. And I just wanted to get an idea of what some of your last words are to the folks in Illinois on this voting day.
Well, look, thank you so much for having me. It's time to vote. Happy election day to everybody. I would be humbled and honored to receive your support. I think that we need to do two things going forward. One is address the economic challenges that bedevil or distress people right now. You don't have to go further than your gas pump at the local gas station to see that, this illegal, unconstitutional Iran war has now led to gas going up by upwards of $1 in 1 week. And then the second issue that we have to do is we have to hold the Trump administration accountable. They are acting recklessly. They're acting with impunity. They're acting in a way that is kind of untethered or disconnected from, what people want. And you don't have to, again, look further than the Iran war, which I believe is illegal, unconstitutional, dangerous, reckless, and we have to put a stop to it. You don't have to look further than CBP and ICE, which have terrorized our neighborhoods and communities and are acting in a way that's completely, again, unconstitutional and illegal. And so I intend to work on both those issues, those economic challenges as well as holding Trump accountable.
Congressman, I appreciate the fact that you, like all of our candidates, and I say this oftentimes, we have a strong bench across the country. We've had so many wins in state elections, and you've seen it. Some of the places you wouldn't recognize, or not recognize, you wouldn't see as places that we'd have a win. I mean, down in Mississippi and all over, where we've had state legislators that have won, and obviously you're running for this federal congressional seat. But we've got a great bench and a lot of people that have been working hard, and all of our team has been really, really good. But what in your travels during this campaign season has been, I would say, the thing that's been that sort of the wind or that energy that kind of got to you, as they say, when the sermon gets to you in church. But what's been that thing during the campaign that's kind of lifted your spirits and said you want to keep on fighting?
I think that it's the crowds that show up in each town and city in Illinois when I go and visit to learn about their issues, talk to them about both our challenges and opportunities, and how do we take our country back. And the crowds are growing. They include people that perhaps may not have shown up in the past, but now they recognize that old saying in Washington, D.C., which is if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And nobody wants to be on the menu. And so I think that is incredibly important. I also, take note of the fact that even in rural Illinois, in places that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily expect, a lot of Democrats, I'm seeing a lot of people kind of get energized. I'm seeing farmers, listen to our message and what we have to say a little more intently, a little more with interest maybe than before, because they have been shocked by these tariffs and just the horrible policies of the Trump administration. So we have an opportunity. Now we have to go seize it, and we have to win a majority in all chambers, not only in Congress, but in state legislatures and everywhere else in America.
Yeah, that's so true. So I'll ask you this question as we kind of wrap up. I know you got a busy schedule this morning, and we appreciate you being on. This goes well, and you end up at the top. What does your April to November look like?
Well, I think it's going to be a little more of the same, just getting around Illinois, crisscrossing this beautiful state, meeting with voters, asking for their support, galvanizing Democrats, unifying around our both nominators. I mentioned two of them, addressing our economic challenges, but also, holding the Trump administration accountable and standing on principle. I believe in this country. I would not be here but for this government. And, as I said before on your program, I'm a product of food stamps and public housing. I am a product of public schools, racial, religious, ethnic, minority, immigrant, and letters in my name. So I believe everybody belongs. I don't care what anybody else says. One belongs. This is our country. It's time to take our country back.
Absolutely. What's your wish list? Last question. What's your wish list at this point?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What is your wish list at this point in the race?
Victory. I want to win.
It's an easy question.
I want to win the most votes.
It's by design an easy question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And maybe I'll just close by saying it's been the honor of my lifetime to represent Illinoisans in Congress. I would be humbled and grateful and honored to represent Illinoisans in the U.S. Senate, and I respectfully request your listeners' support.
You got it. Congressman, thank you for being with us this morning. We know you got a tight schedule. We wish you all the success that the day will bring, and hopefully we'll be talking to you sometime again soon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Be well. Talk with you soon. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Be well. Talk to you soon. Bye now. All right, guys, we want to take a tight little break. We do that? Let's do that. All right, 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. When we come back, we will be talking with Barbara McQuade, sisters-in-law, and so many other great things that she's doing right now. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
You may recognize his voice.
I'm Barack Obama.
And his.
I'm J.B. Pritzker.
Two Illinois leaders who both agree Juliana Stratton is a fighter for Illinois families.
Juliana Stratton has spent her career serving our community and protecting public safety. Juliana will fight to get guns off our streets.
And no one knows Stratton better than Governor J.B. Pritzker. As Lieutenant Governor, Stratton worked with Governor Pritzker to raise the minimum wage, deliver paid time off, get assault weapons off our streets, and defend abortion rights.
Illinois deserves a United States Senator who knows how to fight for us. A senator who will never cower when the moment calls for courage. I'm proud to endorse Juliana Stratton for United States Senate.
You heard them. Now it's time to vote and send Juliana Stratton to the U.S. Senate. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC, IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Election night is almost here. Join us for the WCPT Election Night Special on Tuesday, March 17th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. hosted by Joan Esposito, Richard Chu, and me, Patty Vasquez.
Election Day coverage will start with Joan Esposito live, local and progressive from 2 to 5, and driving it home with Patty Vasquez from 5 to 7.
WCPT will have reporters all over Chicagoland with updates from state and local candidates' election headquarters.
The WCPT Election Day coverage and the WCPT Election Night Special are sponsored by Fazio Insurance,
an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage counties since 1953.
For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioINS.com.
Remember to join WCPT Radio on Tuesday, March 17th to get the latest primary election news.
See you on the radio at 8:20 a.m. and WCPT820.com.
Hi, this is Pat Hines, candidate for Cook County Assessor. I've spent 30 years working in property tax assessments, serving taxpayers like you. We need a Cook County Assessor who will give you reliable and on-time property tax bills. This job requires professionalism, not politics. I'm Pat Hines, candidate for Cook County Assessor. I ask for your vote on or before March 17th.
This ad was paid for by Hines for Assessor.
Chicago, on March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history. All while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairshakepac.com.
In times of uncertainty, we need leaders who put country before party. Dan Tully answered that call, serving our nation with honor.
I served in the Army Reserve and as a federal civil servant. But when the Trump agenda threatened our democracy, I refused to stay silent. I left my job in Washington in protest of Trump's lawlessness.
Dan Tully is the only candidate with a detailed plan to hold Trump accountable, a veteran, a principled leader, and ready to fight for you.
Visit DanTully.com to see my comprehensive strategy for accountability. I'm Dan Tully, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Dan Tully for Congress.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, a blend of clouds and sunshine to start, then increasing clouds into the afternoon with highs in the mid-20s. For tonight, snow developing, less than an inch of nighttime snowfall will reach a low of 23. For Wednesday, up to a half inch of snow accumulation in the morning, a high of 42. And for Thursday, a slight chance for some light rain showers up to 54. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 15.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Chu's Views.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. What a morning. Congresswoman Kelly, Lieutenant Governor Stratton, and of course, Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi were with us this morning to talk about their campaign running for U.S. Senate seat. Big seat, very important, and obviously is a big part of us taking back not only control of the House, but the control of the Senate. With us this morning is someone that's been in the fight for a long time and knows how to fight on so many different levels. Detroit native, University of Michigan undergrad and JD graduate, law school graduate, is an author and one of the sisters of the Teen Sisters-in-Law podcast, which has a great panel of Joyce Vance, Jill Wine-Banks, who's a Chicago gal, Kimberly Atkins-Storr, and Barb McQuade. Good morning, Barbara, and welcome to Chu's Views on WCPT.
Good morning, Richard. Great to be with you today.
Yes, it is. It's good to have you back on the show. I know you, as always, have been busy. When you do a podcast, it kind of keeps you busy. Got to be, it's like, I won't say it's like preparing for a day in court, but it definitely does require that you've got all your information ready in terms of current events and what's happening.
Yeah, it does, but I love it. It keeps you on your toes because, the recording of the podcast is one thing that, that takes an hour or so. But the prep for the podcast, it just means I am constantly reading the news, but it's okay because I have to do that for my day job anyway. So it all has a lot of good overlap.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's like, okay, the show is 2 hours, but the things that we want to do to be ready and prepared so that we bring a good show is a big part of it as well. The Fix, Saving America from Corruption of a Mob-Style Government. Boy, what a title. Tell us about this latest book from Barbara McQuade.
Yes, thank you. It's coming out in June, available for pre-order now. But, the book really is about, based on my career as a prosecutor, I have seen this movie before that we are seeing playing out now in the White House. And that is, if there is a theme to the second presidency of Donald Trump, it is the use of power as leverage to get what he wants. Not necessarily what is good for the American people, but what is good for him politically and what is good for him financially. So you'll see him use these levers of power, whether it's tariffs or violence through war or the threat of war or FCC licensing or extortion of law firms and universities and the media. It is an effort to control, and it has, in my view, a very negative impact on democracy, a government not of one man's power, but power of the people. And so the book proposes some solutions. That's, hence the name, The Fix, of how we can get out from under this moment and restore the power to the American people.
We have an election right now, and we have a number. We have 5 congressional seats that folks are running for because we've had some named politicians, career leaders that are stepping down. Dick Durbin's not going to run again, and you know a little bit about Illinois politics, being that you're from Michigan. And Jan Schakowsky's not running again. So we've got a number of open seats. We got a strong bench. And we have to take back not only the House, but ideally to take back the Senate. I think that's going to be the most immediate break or slowing of this train wreck, is to take back House and then potentially be able to take back the Senate. The Senate is a little bit bigger push. But what do you see happening? We do that and we take back, let's say, just the House, and we don't take back the Senate. What are you wanting Democrats to do right out of the gate? And I'll say this statement, and then I'll let you talk about this. Waiting is not an option, but what do you want to see Democrats do if we do actually take back the House of Representatives?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's so important is thinking about what the vision of America looks like next. I think oftentimes we are stuck talking about restoring America or revitalizing what was. And instead, I think we have to reimagine what will be. There's so many things that we need to get our arms around. Regulating AI, guarding against climate change are big. But I think the issues that really matter to the American people right now are issues pertaining to affordability. One of the challenges, I think, of this moment in American history is the access to information has created such huge imbalances where we see a wealth gap that is growing greater than it's been at any time since World War II. And one of the reasons, I think, is some of the tax policies that we have had. We allow corporations to have low rates. We allow billionaires to have low rates. If we just go back to the rates of the 1970s, we can restore some of the income equality that we had back then. President Trump has done a very masterful job of manipulating the American people into being angry with each other instead of being angry at the billionaires who are robbing us of our wealth. And so, these stoking of this anger among various groups, working class white people versus minorities versus immigrants versus the LGBTQ community. That is all, in my opinion, a deliberate effort to divide and conquer. Because if we're all fighting with each other, what we're not fighting with are the billionaires who are robbing us blind. And so I think we need to reform our tax code. I think we need to think about affordability in terms of wages in manufacturing sectors. Those are the things that protect our national security by having us able to manufacture the kinds of durable goods, weapons, vehicles that we need to make sure our economy is running smoothly. So I think we need to work on affordability issues, wages, homes, home ownership now. The average age of owning one's first home is 38. And we have the ability to change that. We are allowing people to, through hedge funds and other things, squeeze every dime out of every financial transaction. And it doesn't have to be that way. And so I think looking at things like tax policy, home ownership, and real wages in the manufacturing sectors are some of the most important things we should be keeping our eyes on.
Are you hopeful, or what are your thoughts about Congress, specifically the House, if we just take back the House and not the Senate, being able to rein in Donald Trump's recklessness on a couple of areas? Let's start with the tariffs. Maybe the second one might be this recklessness with regard to this war in Iran. Do you think that Congress is going to have the impact that a lot of people are hoping for, or the influence?
Yeah, no, certainly if you can get the House and the Senate, you can do an awful lot of powerful things to stop a runaway president, including impeachment and conviction.
Mm-hmm.
But even if just the House, I think, is very important because, of course, legislation has to pass both of the houses of Congress before it can be passed into law. So that could be an important check. I also think gaining control of the committees to conduct oversight hearings could be very important. We're seeing some oversight now. It seems that the Epstein files is something that has broken through across party lines where we've seen some meaningful oversight hearings, but it would be useful if we could see a Democratic majority in the House. We could see a much more robust effort to expose to the American people some of the things that are going on. You mentioned tariffs, but also I'm very concerned about what's happening in Iran with the war that has started without the consent of Congress, without any clear objectives. Maybe it's the right thing to do, but the president seems to be going it alone when the Constitution gives Congress the power to declare war. And, I don't think we've seen a clear articulation of an objective, a strategy, including an exit strategy. Now, President Trump is talking about dabbling in Cuba. Well, keep your eye on the ball, man. And I think a meaningful check in the House through oversight could help.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation around affordability and all the things that you said earlier in terms of changing the conversation around how Americans live their everyday lives is critically important. And this war doesn't help that. The most visible resource, of course, is the dollars that we're spending on it, yet alone the lives that have already been lost and additional ones that could be lost if we have boots on the ground. Earlier in the show, Barbara, I talked about the consideration that they're now having of moving troops from Japan to Iran. And if that happens, folks are going to die first. And secondly, we're going to leave ourselves exposed with regard to China and Asia. So it's far reaching. And this decision it is about the money, but it's also about the money and the safety factor. You talk a lot about national security, particularly when it comes to the FBI and your experience in that space. Give us some of your thoughts about some of the logistics that you see right now that are going on with the FBI.
Yeah, one thing that really concerns me, I think, is the leadership of Kash Patel. Not only has he...
If we want to call it that.
Yeah, I'll put it in air quotes.
Sorry.
Yeah, so he is distracted at best and running the agency into the ground at worst. So we see visibly that he's doing things like, slamming beers with the U.S. Olympic hockey team just before this attack in Iran. We know that he's staging a stunt where he brings in UFC, MMA fighters for some sort of training for the FBI. Keep in mind what the FBI does. These are not street thugs. They're not out on the street, collaring arrests. They use analytics and intelligence and interviews and surveillance to collect information at a very high level to disrupt and dismantle threats to the American people. I worry that he is also, because of his retribution campaign on behalf of Donald Trump, depleted the ranks of the FBI just at this moment when we need those experts in counterterrorism and national security and cyber threats. And he has fired all of these people who had anything to do with the Trump investigations, both at Mar-a-Lago and the election interference case, and all of the people who had anything to do with the attack on the Capitol on January 6th. These were some of the best and brightest when it comes to protecting the American people from these threats of terrorism and cyber intrusions. And at this moment, when we are so depleted, that's the moment President Trump chooses to attack Iran. And I'm very worried. We've had 4 terrorist attacks since the war began. They appear, they're still under investigation. They appear to be mostly sort of lone wolf type of attacks. But when we're attacking Iran, a known state sponsor of terrorism, they fund proxies in Hezbollah and Hamas. It is certainly never justified to engage in political violence, but it's certainly foreseeable that there will be political violence here in the homeland. And we have got these depleted ranks of FBI agents just as we are experiencing these cyber intrusions and these terrorist attacks. So I'm very worried about our readiness to safeguard the American people against these acts of retaliation.
Without a doubt. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Barbara McQuade, who is one of the 4 sisters-in-law, host of the podcast that takes that legal expertise and puts it back out there for us regular folks, or maybe legal-minded wannabes, to have a better understanding of what goes on in our legal world. Barbara, one of the things I wanted to come back to when we're talking about legal standing and what our government is capable of doing is the situation that just kind of hit the table, and what Brandon Carr put out in terms of threats to media entities as it relates to, if you all don't say what we want you to say, or if you say something that we think is fake news or whatever, we're coming after your licenses. And that's a broad statement, but let's dig into that a little bit as it relates to how dangerous this is and how problematic it is for you.
Yeah, this is state control of the media. We've seen this with Viktor Orban in Hungary, this sort of bit by bit chipping away at the independence of the free press into what he now refers to proudly as his illiberal democracy. The phrase liberal democracy, I think some people confuse with what it means to be liberal and conservative. It just means libertarian, that we have a free and open society, and our free press is an essential part of that. I recall when the Biden administration set up a disinformation agency, the goal there was to detect disinformation coming from foreign actors, but it got shut down because Republicans were so outraged at the idea that the government was playing any role whatsoever in policing truth. Okay, fair enough. But now here we are, and our FCC chairman is threatening to take away the licenses of our broadcast media if they engage in war coverage that's unfavorable. And, we've seen all kinds of other things at the Pentagon, kicking out news agencies that refuse to abide by policies, that they refrain from publishing anything that was not cleared by the leadership at the Defense Department. We've seen these lawsuits by the Trump administration quite frivolously making claims against media outlets, and then getting settlements from them because some of these big media organizations would rather maximize profits than engage in free speech. We saw President Trump kick the Associated Press out of the White House for refusing to modify its style book to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. All of these attacks on our free speech are really dangerous. We have the ability through defamation law to hold broadcasters accountable when they say things that are false, with actual malice. And that should be enough, because we want there to be this free exchange of information so that the American people can make good decisions. An essential part of democracy is information. The founding fathers are famous for saying all kinds of things like the essence of democracy is an informed electorate, or where I had the choice between a free press and an open government, I would choose the former, right? Because without a free press, nothing else works. So I really am hopeful. We've seen Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, right? Ultra conservative, speak out against this. This has I think, should this issue of opposing what the FCC chairman is doing should appeal not only to Democrats, but also libertarian Republicans. I mean, anybody other than the MAGA base or anybody who is engaging in any intellectual honesty should really recoil at this idea. Now, certainly we don't want broadcast media pushing false claims, but I think, the thing that Brendan Carr is really concerned about is this bombing that appears to have destroyed a school and killed 175 children, mostly schoolgirls. Let's get to the bottom of that. And if we're responsible for it, we take responsibility. And we acknowledge that sometimes during war, awful things happen. But instead, they seem to want to just cover it up and pretend it didn't happen. That's what happens in countries like Iran or Iraq. We used to mock that kind of thing, not tolerate it in our own country. And so sometimes, perhaps, when leaders go too far, it can backfire because members of their own party take exception to it. And I really hope this is one of them, because you're a journalist. Free press is a cornerstone of democracy and so important to our way of life.
There's no question about that. And I appreciate you reminding us about the girls, the children that were killed in this bombing, whether it be accidental or intentional. And, part of my concern right now, and I talked about this earlier, Barbara, is the media consolidation. This whole thing with Paramount and Larry Ellison and his son, with the deal with Warner Brothers, Disney. These are all tools that are, would put us in a situation where the variety of what we have to listen to, look at, and all is going to go away if there's too much continued consolidation. And then when you link that to what Brendan Carr said about, fines or removal of licenses, it's not a slope that we want to be on at all, because it is a very, very dangerous slope from an information standpoint. Do you think that, and this is one of our last questions as we kind of wrap up, do you think that the pardons and all that the president is capable of doing will happen as we get closer to the midterms, particularly if it looks like the Dems are going to take back the House? I know that's kind of maybe an odd question, but I was just curious about this. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that pardons will start to ramp up and the president will step in even before we get to, or get past the midterms, and he try to get involved in protecting some people that he knows that a Democratic-run Congress or House of Representatives will come after?
Yeah, I do worry about this. I don't know about the timing. I don't know if he will play that card that early, but it is a power the president has. Certainly, the idea of the pardon power is to show mercy to someone who has shown great remorse or who was a victim of some grave injustice. And throughout history, the Justice Department has tried to come up with a very uniform formula requiring that people have completed their sentence, been released for 5 years. And now what we're seeing instead is this idea of blanket pardons going forward. And I'm sure what Trump will say is, well, Joe Biden did it. Well, Joe Biden did it because Donald Trump promised to retaliate against, the January 6th committee members like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Dr. Anthony Fauci for, warning us about the hazards of COVID. And so, it was a benevolent thing to do for people who had done nothing wrong, to give them these blanket pardons. But now, of course, that we have that precedent that Trump himself forced. And so I'm sure he's going to use it at some point. He himself because of the Supreme Court, cannot be charged criminally, or he has immunity from criminal charges for things he does in office. But it's not clear that any of his subordinates do. And so one way he can take care of people who took care of him is by issuing these prospective pardons. The same way Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, anything he may have done up to this point. And so you could imagine similar prospective pardons for cabinet officials, people like Brendan Carr, for other people. Other people. And so much of what we've seen, I don't know if it crosses a criminal line, what Brendan Carr is doing, but it certainly crosses the line of political accountability. And I hope that if nothing else, one power we have as the American people is our power to vote. When I was a U.S. attorney, one of the pieces of advice I got when I went through training was, if you want to avoid management problems, just hire better people. And so we, the people, have the power to hire our leaders, and we can hire better people. We have the opportunity, and you have the opportunity today in Illinois to hire better people, and we have that opportunity when it comes to members of Congress, the Senate, and the president.
She is part of Sisters-in-Law podcast, and she's the author of the upcoming book, The Fix: Saving America from the Corruption of a Mob-Style Government. Barbara McQuade, thank you for being with us this morning. We greatly appreciate your time and look forward to having you back again soon.
My great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye now. Guys, make sure you stay tuned today, all of our broadcasts, and most definitely plug into our election night coverage, which begins at 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll be here with Patty Vasquez and Joan Esposito, and we'll have special guests, live updates from our reporters, candidate call-ins, and big speeches as they happen. Listen to WCPT, the 820.com, and tune in, or watch the live stream on WCPT's Facebook page and Heartland Signal YouTube page. Stay tuned, guys. We'll see you tonight. Make sure you plug in. We got a lot going on. And we are just excited about the day, so make sure you're plugging into all of our broadcasts. Our broadcast today, or this evening, our election coverage is sponsored by Fazio Insurance. What else can I tell you? Stay plugged in. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tonight and tomorrow.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Who is Kevin Ryan? Hey, that's me. I'm a Chicago public school teacher, union member, and Marine Corps veteran. Most importantly, I am a New Deal Democrat from a new generation, and I am running for the United States Senate to make our government work for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, you might not have heard of me because, well, I am just like you. I don't have millions of dollars to spend on TV ads, I'm not backed by a billionaire, and I've been excluded from the debates because I refuse to raise millions of dollars from the 1%. Instead, I am backed by ordinary people like you. I'm the only candidate to campaign in all 102 counties in my campaign school bus, and we fund our campaign by simply passing a hat around. So we thought we'd spend some of that money to introduce our campaign to you on WCPT Radio. If you want to send a real progressive to the United States Senate and not another bought and paid for Democrat, go to kevinryan.com. Spread the word and vote for the candidate endorsed by Illinois progressives. My name is Kevin Ryan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by people of Illinois and Kevin Ryan.
She was born on the south side of Chicago, the daughter of a teacher and Navy veteran. Now she's running for U.S. Senate to fight for us, Juliana Stratton. As Lieutenant Governor, she fought with Governor Pritzker to get assault weapons off our streets. She raised our wages and delivered paid time off. And Juliana Stratton is endorsed by Governor Pritzker because she'll be a partner to him in Washington. In the Senate, Stratton will stand up to Donald Trump to defend our rights and lower our costs.
If there's ever been a time
that we need fighters in Washington, it's right now. I will be that fighter. People are tired of the status quo, and they are looking for people who will meet this moment. I want to fight to give the people what they want.
Endorsed by Governor Pritzker, Juliana Stratton for Senate. Because you deserve a fighter. Paid for by Illinois Future PAC. IllinoisFuturePAC.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Illinois Future PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Haya Punjwani. Israel's defense minister says that the Israeli military killed a top Iranian security official. Ali Larajini was killed in an overnight strike. The Israeli military also announced that it killed Gholam Reza Soleimani, the head of the Revolutionary Guard's all-volunteer Basij force. AP's Lisa Dwyer reports that Cuba's energy crisis is worsening.
Officials in Cuba are reporting an island-wide blackout in the country of some 11 million people as its energy and economic crisis deepens. Cuba says there's been a complete disconnection of the country's electrical system and says it is investigating. While Cuba blames a U.S. energy blockade for the crisis, Cuba's aging grid has drastically eroded in recent years, leading to daily outages and an increase in island-wide blackouts. President Donald Trump warned in January of tariffs on any country that would sell or provide oil to the island and has hinted at a friendly takeover of the island. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
March Madness tips off tonight, and that means the gambling industry will be active. AP's Mike Hempin.
The men's and women's basketball tournaments generate more wagering than any other event in the United States. The American Gaming Association estimates a record $3.3 billion will be legally bet on the games this year. The tournaments will tip off just 2 months after federal prosecutors announced criminal charges in a point-shaving scheme that allegedly involved 6 fixers, 17 former players, and 4 players who were active with their teams this season. Players are warned about associating with people seeking inside information about their teams or offering enticements to shave points. I'm Mike Hempin.
More than 750 flights scheduled to fly into, out of, or within the U.S. have been called off as of early this morning. This is AP News. Afghanistan is blaming Pakistan for a deadline airstrike, killing hundreds of people.
Rescue crews are still digging bodies out of the rubble of a drug rehabilitation hospital in the Afghan capital Tuesday morning, after officials say an overnight Pakistani airstrike killed at least 400 people in a dramatic escalation of a conflict between the two neighbours that's now into its 3rd week. Haji Najibullah, relative of victims, says, "My son and some of my relatives were admitted to this hospital for medical care. Last night, we suddenly received news that the Pakistani government had carried out bombings and everyone was displaced. We have no information about who's alive and who's buried under the rubble." The conflict that began last month has seen repeated cross-border clashes as well as airstrikes inside Afghanistan. International calls for a ceasefire have gone unheeded. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
I'm Haya Punjwani, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, a blend of clouds and sunshine to start, then increasing clouds into the afternoon with highs in the mid-20s. For tonight, snow developing, less than an inch of nighttime snowfall will reach a low of 23. For Wednesday, up to a half inch of snow accumulation in the morning, a high of 42. And for Thursday, a slight chance for some light rain showers up to 54. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 16.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Chicago, on March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud, and that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history, all while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairshakepac.com.
Our country feels divided, but the answer isn't more chaos. It's competence. Hi, I'm Sanjot Danang, running for Congress in Illinois' 8th District to bring common sense, responsible change. I'm a small business owner, military mom who's raised 3 boys, and someone who cared for aging and disabled parents. I get what our families are going through. I'm fighting to defend our democracy and build a path forward. Good paying jobs, affordable childcare, disabled care, elder care, strengthening education and skills training, pro-legal immigration reform that's humane, fair, and faster. I'm the only candidate with current federal policy experience, strengthening small businesses, creating jobs, and protecting our economic security. Together, we can restore trust, defend our democracy, and rebuild an economy that rewards hard work. Vote by March 17th. And the list of candidates for Congressional 8, skip to the end and vote Sanjot. Sanjyot. I'm Sanjot Danang, and I'm ready to work for you.
Paid for by Sanjot Danang for Congress.